Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 at 1:30. I hereby call the local government committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Representatives Alexander, Burkhart, Carr, Doggett, Hale, Haynes, Holsclaw, Love, Martin, McKenzie, Miller, Moon, Raper, Reedy, Rudd, Shaw, Slater, Stevens, Thompson. Vice Chairman Wright, Chairman Crawford.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do any of the members have any personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, we'll jump into today's agenda. We have 18 bills. I will be taking chairman and leadership first, so we may be jumping around a little bit. Item number one on today's agenda, House Bill 1209, without objection, will be taken off notice. Item number two, House Bill 1562 by Leader Marsh. We got a proper motion and second. Just for the committee's knowledge, we have received a majority vote of 2/3 resolution from his governing body. It is located in my office if anyone would like to see it. Speaker Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 1552 is a private act for the city of or town of Petersburg in Lincoln County making various changes to their charter. With that, I'll answer any questions, or do you want me to go over what the changes are?
Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, Speaker Marsh, I think we're ready to vote. Without objection, all those in favor of House Bill 1562 moving on to calendar and rules, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Give me 1 second. I can't fuss at y'all for your phones going off if mine's going off. So, all right. Item number three, House Bill 28 by Leader Lamberth. Is he in here? We will take that on down the agenda then. Next on the list is House Bill 1558 by Leader Cochran. I got a proper motion in second. I have received a vote of 2/3 majority resolution. It's located in my office. And with that being said, Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. And House Bill 1558 just makes a few clarifications to the City of Nyota's charter, allows them to hire a part-time or full-time city manager, clarifies some of the duties for their city commissioners as well as allowing compensation for those. Any raises go into effect the next term. I'll yield any questions if you needed further detail.
Any questions for the sponsor? Question has been called on the bill. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1558, moving on to calendar and rules. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
You're welcome. Backing up to item number three, House Bill 28 by Leader Lamberth. We got a proper motion in second. Leader Lamberth, I do see we have an amendment. Would you please give us your drafting code?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize for my tardiness. Criminal justice ran over just a little bit next door. It's amendment code 6368. It makes the bill.
Proper motion in second. We'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill since it makes the bill. Without objection, all in favor of amendment 6368 going on the bill, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill's now amended. You're recognized, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we've spent really months working on this, but specifically the last few weeks of trying to strike a good balance on this. For those of us that have quite a bit of our constituency that's in the county, it's very difficult to see city limits continue to expand and expand and expand into that county area. You see farms that just disappear that are, 100-year farms. You see, green areas and green spaces that have been natural my entire life that literally just are gone. And I get it. Look, growth is going to happen. Development is going to happen. Folks are moving in Tennessee in droves, and we welcome them here. But the problem is the cities and a willing landowner are the only two people that have a seat at the table right now when it comes to annexation of county area. The county doesn't have a say in the process. And yet those county leaders that all of us serve as well they're the ones that are going to be responsible for building bigger jails for those that may misbehave, for building more schools, for the children and families that have moved here, for taking care of the roads in between all the cities that are annexing up county area. Now, some of our cities in the state have been very responsible in this annexation. And yet others have massive urban growth areas that they can expand into. And again, without any say whatsoever from the county. So this bill is very simple and straightforward. It has an opt-in provision for any county in the state where if a county wishes to have a seat at the table, they would. So in other words, if they vote by majority vote by the county commission to be able to be a part of the conversation as to whether or not a city is going to expand their borders into the county, then they would have to vote to actually adopt this law. If they opt in, then each time that the city has a willing landowner that they're going to annex into the city, and it has to be a willing landowner as we passed in years past here, then the county would have to vote in each instance to allow the city to expand or not. One of the other issues that this addresses is currently there are planning zones that are outside of the city. Basically, that's areas that when we had forced annexation, it was assumed that cities were going to move into those areas. It was just assumed that the growth was going to be, never ending. Well, that's not the case anymore. Some of these areas they will grow into, some of them they were not. But having regulation beyond the borders of an area where you actually have a vote for someone is just not right. So part of this is it also does away with those planning zones so that if a city wishes to annex an area and have regulations over it, they're going to have to work with the county and actually annex that area unless the county, again, doesn't adopt this and then everything goes on exactly the way it has been for, decades. And that is what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. A great explanation. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I understand the basics of it, but I remember several years ago when we had that tiny town controversy, and we established the urban growth areas. Does this do away with that, or does that still exist?
Leader Lambert.
Thank you for asking that. That's the issue we've been trying to work on the last few weeks. As you notice, this got rolled on the calendar a couple of times. We actually went ahead and left the urban growth boundaries in place for that reason. So those regulations, those protections are still there. So the urban growth boundaries will remain. But the only thing we're really changing is, again, those planning zones will go away. But the urban growth boundaries and all those protections and regulations would still be there. But if a city wants to expand their borders, again, if a county opts in, then the county's going to have a say on that. But we initially, in the original bill, which is what you're referencing, we actually did away with urban growth boundaries completely. And that just wasn't going to work because some of those protections for some of those tiny towns were contained within that urban growth language. So we left it in the bill at this amendment.
Representative Thompson, do you have a follow-up?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we don't have several municipalities fighting each other within a county. That's the only concern I had.
Leader Lambert.
No, so that should not be occurring.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that was kind of where I was misled. Is there anything, I've had some calls naturally about this. I kind of like what you're doing. I guess the question is if there cannot be an agreement between the two municipalities, city and county, is there anything in the legislation that could be settled in the event? Because I can see where in some of the local areas there will be some headbutts, between the county commissioners and city folks. Is there anything in the legislation that would say if that happened, this is who sells it?
Leader Lambert.
They're going to have to work together. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, counties and cities both bring strengths to our state. There's no doubt about it. But right now, you've got cities that really have a trump card over the counties when they're expanding into county area. This makes sure that they actually have to work together. Now, sometimes that's going to be uncomfortable. But if we don't do something like this, what happens is many of our cities become kind of donut cities where the interior or certain sections of them will begin to degrade because it's simply less expensive to develop out into farmland in the county area than it is to actually develop inside the city limits. What I would hope is that they focus on those city limits, really ramp that up and do the development there. And when opportunities arise where it is beneficial to both city and county areas, yes, they can still continue to expand, but it needs to be everybody at the table because everybody is contained within that unit. When you're in a county and those cities are within it, unless it's a metropolitan area, they've got to be working together. And right now, that's really not forced under the law. This bill would do that.
Representative Shaw for follow-up.
Follow-up, thank you. And this follow-up is now for those cities who have already designated their potential growth, how does it affect those folks?
Leader Lamberth.
We left that in place. Again, that was the amendment. We left the urban growth boundaries in place.
Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, you have a lot of things on your plate, Mr. Leader. You have taken months of work with many, many stakeholders to try to get this as right as possible, as correct as possible. And I thank you for your effort and your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo what Chairman Moon just said. We have worked on this, and we've worked on it even a year or so ago, even though it might not seem to be perfect, but it's maybe the best for both rims. But I think I can have the leader's guarantee if these things sometimes we do things down here and we see a little thing next year that we could twerk it a little bit or tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit better. We will do that. So I just wanted to make everybody, I keep hitting that button, turn myself off. Keep everybody aware that this has been an ongoing thing for not just this session, but probably the last 2 or 3 sessions. So thanks for all the efforts. Appreciate it.
Chairman Carr, we don't allow twerking. Out of order.
Tweaking. So,
Leader Lamberth, I'm sorry.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to let that pitch sail by, but that's okay.
I just couldn't let it go.
Thank you both, and thank you for your help on this. I will say when we did away with forced annexation as a body, we created some of these issues where we made progress in that. But I absolutely dedicate that, sir, that we will continue to tweak this until it works for everyone. I just want there to be, again, all parties at the table that are a part of actually, doing this process. And it's just kind of one-sided right now. And so it's difficult conversations, but when we're talking about, again, jails and schools and roads, that conversation needs to happen. And so, again, I appreciate a member of this committee bringing to me an idea of making this an opt-in as well. There may be counties out there that don't want to go down this road, that they like the process they've got right now. They like the urban growth boundaries, and they say, look, you know what, we're just going to leave it alone, because there will be more responsibility on the county's part here if they wish to get involved with, the city and landowner and counties all having that conversation. That means there's a little more work for the counties too. So that's why there's an opt-in on this. So thank you.
The question has been called on the bill. Without objection, we're ready to vote on House Bill 28. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Item number 5, House Bill 1197 by Chairman Williams. We got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code, Chairman?
Yes, a new amendment from the since prior to the subcommittee, drafting code 6590.
6590. That is correct. We got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Does the amendment make the bill, sir?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill. All in favor of Amendment 6590 going on the bill, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman and members. As this committee knows, last year the state decided to invest $500 million in a proposed new stadium and make a sales tax policy associated with the new stadium in town. Because of that, I felt like it was necessary for the seat to have a table as it relates to those investments in those dollars, without impugning the local government as it relates to their operations and management of the sports authority. This bill, with this new amendment, would preserve the majority for Metro Council as it relates to the appointments of those on the sports authority, but would allow for the speaker, the governor, and the lieutenant governor to appoint 2 new members per each to that sports authority. With that, and also it extends the implementation date until January 1st of 2024, allowing for time for current bondholders and agreements to be made. With that, Ms. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank
members might
you,
have.
Mr. Sponsor. If the committee would allow, we will go out of session to hear from some speakers. Is there any objection? We are out of session. First I have on the list is Don Deering. Mr. Deering, please come up to the table, turn the red light on, give us your name and whatever organization you are with. You will have 3 minutes.
Chairman Crawford and ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I'm Don Deering, a lifetime resident of Nashville, Davidson County. I retired from Tennessee Army National Guard with almost 40 years of service to my nation and my state. I'm the former executive director of the National Guard Association of Tennessee. I currently reside in Goodlettsville and a current member of the Nashville Metro Sports Authority. Thank you for the opportunity to address your committee in opposition to House Bill 1197 as it pertains to the Nashville Sports Authority. I want to thank the state for its role in the development of professional sports in Tennessee when they agreed with the Sports Act of 1993, called the Act, in which the state agreed to facilitate the acquisition and construction of sports facilities primarily by allowing local governments to capture certain tax revenue that was a game changer. Without this action by the state and other efforts along the way, we would not be where we are today. In the act, the state determined 3 key benefits of constructing sports facilities. Number one, they could provide a means to attract and bring professional teams to the state. We are presently in the process of trying to bring a professional women's sports team to Nashville, Tennessee. Number two, they would enhance the state's image as a sports center. Nashville just recently named the 8th best sports business city by the Sports Business Journal. Number three, they could encourage and foster economic development and prosperity. And I think all in this room would agree in Nashville that has happened. The state partnered with Metro by contributing $55 million on the original construction of the Titan Stadium. The state once again is partnering with Metro and will obligate $500 million if we build a covered stadium, which the Sports Authority is meeting and discussing and working on as we speak. As you can see, the Sports Authority has existed and operated in a very professional manner for 28 years and could not have made it without state partnership. When you think of all the facilities we provide service and owner and landlord for, Nissan Stadium, Bridgestone Arena, First Horizon Ballpark, Geodis Park Stadium, the Bellevue Ice Rink, and the Antioch Ice Rink. Our accomplishments have been #1 sports city by Sports Business Journal, the best Major League Baseball town in America and top Major League franchise in the country, hosted the NFL Draft, the Stanley Cup Finals, the Women's Final Four, the Music City Grand Prix, Bridgestone Arena ranked #1 in the world in concert tickets sold, the largest soccer-specific stadium in the U.S. and Canada.
Mr. Deering, can you go ahead and finish up there? You're at your 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I'd like to say I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm just sitting here trying to figure out why in the world we're trying to fix something that is not broken. So anyway, I humbly ask for your support in not voting to do away with Metro Sports Authority as we know today, sir.
Committee, is there any questions for Mr. Deering? Seeing none, thank you, sir, and we want to take a moment and thank you for your service to our country. Thank you very much.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your service to our state.
Next I have on the list is Bill Bradley. Is Bill here? Okay. Mr. Bradley, please have a seat at the table, turn the red light on. Give us your name and whoever you're affiliated with, sir, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Bill Bradley, a resident of Davidson County, and a few of you will remember me as a former state employee working in the budget office of the Department of F&A. I appreciate your time, and apologies to Mr. Williams. I had intended to speak with you before appearing here, and we'll try to do that later. I would endorse Mr. Deering's remarks. I think this is a local agency, an instrumentality of local government, and I just don't see in the structure of state and local government that exist in law and in fact in Tennessee that there ought to be state appointees to a local board that's responsible to a local governing body. I think whether in fact or not, I think it at least violates the spirit of home rule. Metropolitan government is a home rule government since it became a metropolitan government, and I think it is presumed in that structure of government that local boards, local departments will be run by local appointees. I would concede that Mr. Williams has brought an amendment that is much better than what the original bill as filed was. It certainly will continue the authority as a instrument of local government, but I think the majority is so narrow that you've got to wonder when push comes to shove, who will the investors or developers of the next venues be looking to? I would think it's very likely they're going to be looking to state government for more assistance than has been the case in the past. I don't know why with such a slim majority of ownership of the board that Metro government would be going out of its way to pledge its own revenues as a backstop to the revenue bonds that will be issued. Mr. Chairman, I won't belabor the point, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there
Mr.
any
Williams.
questions for Mr. Bradley from the committee? Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for being with us today.
Thank you, sir.
Without objection, we'll go back into session, and I will recognize Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you to Mr. Deering for testifying today and his service to our nation. Thank you for Mr. Bradley reaching out to my office. As Mr. Bradley did say, this is by far a completely different makeup of the bill. I do think that what's different about the state's involvement last year is we were asked by the stakeholders from both county government and from the sports team that seek to get this benefit, that we invested $500 million of taxpayers' dollars, and this gives them an opportunity to have a seat at the table. That's what's different about this. As the members may know, I stood before you and asked for the ability to do Geodis Park. There was never asked any dollars other than the state revenues that would be generated through sales tax revenues that would be able to stay at the stadium. The paramount difference between this and what has been done in the past is the fact that Tennessee has invested $500 million. With that, Chairman, members, I'd happy to answer any questions members.
Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, I do appreciate the amendment that makes it a little bit better. But I would have to echo the questions that even the presenters asked. What has gone wrong or potentially is going wrong or gives concern to cause there to be a need to move to have appointees to the board that are not coming from local office holders?
Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question. The answer, what's different about this is there is an investment of state dollars into that. To answer to praise upon your previous praise, what's different about this is there's no impunity. The current board and future decisions of the board and its bonding authority would not be impugned by this. I had the opportunity to talk to the comptroller's office about that, and also the bonding agency that's in discussions with both metropolitan government and the Titans. And I believe by extending the date to 1/1/24 next year and allowing Metro to preserve its majority on the board, and then having a minority of citizens from the state in order to serve on that board, I believe that we've made as many people happy as we can and still meet the fiduciary duties that I believe the state has, or obligations I believe they have, by spending $500 million on a stadium.
Representative Love for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess my concern comes from the park is in my State House district, and I want to make sure that there's enough input from Nashville local elected officials when it comes to appointees, and that it's not going to do away with the voting power of those members. And so you referenced the fact that the difference is that there's an investment from the state into this park, which motivated the action. Does that mean that when the investment is paid off, that we'll go back to full Metro appointees?
Chairman Williams.
I think in the same way that the bonds are paid off on the convention center, that we'd be happy to reduce that tax revenue stream as well.
Any other questions for the sponsor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading the amendment, if I'm correct, it states the governor shall appoint 2 directors with no more than 1 appointee being a resident of the same grand division of the state. Does that mean that one of the appointees could actually come from West Tennessee and or East Tennessee?
Chairman Williams.
That is correct.
Okay, just one clarification on that. Thank you, Mr.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Next year, I would like to see us come back and reexamine this and make it statewide, where we look at incentives of this magnitude. I think all the states should be represented. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 1197, moving on to government operations. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
Next on the agenda is item 6, House Bill 1046 by Chairman Vaughn. Proper motion and second. Chairman Vaughn, I do see we have an amendment. Would you please give us your drafting code? 6168 is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Does the amendment make the bill?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill. All in favor of amendment number 6168 going on the bill, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The House Bill 1046 as amended creates the Tennessee Rural and Workforce Housing Act. THDA, the Tennessee Housing Development Authority, currently administers low-income housing tax credit program. It was created by the Tax Reform Act of 1986 under then President Reagan. LIHTC program provides incentives for the development of affordable housing for households earning 60% or less of an area median income by offering investors a dollar-for-dollar reduction in their federal income tax liability over a 10-year period. Each year, the IRS allocates federal tax credits to states based upon population size, and then these credits are then allocated based upon federal and state priorities. 1046 would create a state program that emulates the federal program, allowing THDA to leverage these federal tax credits and incentivize the development of workforce housing in the more rural areas of Tennessee. Similar programs exist in 25 states, including Arkansas, Missouri, Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia. 2 things I'd like to point out is that these credits do not apply to any local taxes, nor does it alter or preempt any local authority or zoning ordinances in any way. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman of Commerce Committee, is next week your final calendar?
Chairman Vaughn,
I
you're
sure, I
recognized.
sure hope so, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you to my legislator. I think this is a good piece of legislation. I appreciate you bringing it. I think it's going to be well needed and should work well in our area coming up. So I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you, sir. And we are hoping that the governor will include resources in the impending budget amendment to help absorb this fiscal note.
Any other question? Question has been called on the bill. We do have some speakers. I don't know if they're here. Is Autumn Cole here? I don't see her. That's the only speaker we had. Oh, here she comes. Without objection, well, hang on just a second. Without objection, we'll go out of session. Mrs. Cole, please turn your red light on, introduce yourself, who you're with. You have 3 minutes. Okay, pull it closer.
Cole, Legislative Liaison with the Department of Revenue. Happy to answer any questions if you have any. I just put myself down to speakers. We are in active conversations with the sponsor and working on some language just for the administrative side of Department of Revenue, but I don't have anything to add to Chairman Vaughn's testimony.
Is there any questions for our speaker? Thank you for being with us today. Without objection, we'll go back into session. Question has been called on the bill. If Chairman Vaughn would please take his position. Thank you, Chairman Vaughn.
Thank you, sir.
We are ready to vote on House Bill 1046, moving on to government operations. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to government operations.
Thank you very much, Chairman and committee.
Next on our list is item 7, House Bill 505 by Chairman Todd. Proper motion and second on the bill. I do see we have an amendment. Chairman Todd, can you please give us your drafting code?
It is 05345.
That is correct. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Does the amendment make the bill?
Yes, it does, sir.
Without objection, we'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill. All those in favor of 5345, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill is now amended. Chairman Todd, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hopefully this is a little bit lighter and easier bill than some you've had already today. But this is a permissive bill. It allows our local parties, or both Democrat and Republican parties, to call for a partisan election in municipal races if they so choose. Totally permissive. A couple of years ago, we did this very thing with school board races, and I know my constituents and many of you on this committee have shared with me how beneficial that has been to your communities to allow them that option. To me, it's a transparency type bill for voters so that they know what they're voting for, they know who's running. And so this is, again, permissive, allows the local parties to call for a partisan election in municipal races. And again, totally permissive. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I read this bill, it sounds like, so you're saying that the county party can tell a subunit of it, a city which doesn't necessarily run, that they must run a county type partisan election. Is that what you're saying?
Chairman Todd.
I don't think that's quite accurate way to phrase it. It would be that you have a local party, both Democrat and Republican or any other party, can, with their approval with their internal mechanism within that party, can request and call for a municipal election to be partisan, the next upcoming municipal election to be partisan.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, but isn't the smallest subunit of any partisan party a county party? So I'll ask it again. Who can say to a city that they want to have a city partisan election? Is that a county party?
I believe the smallest division of most parties would be on a county level, as far as I know. I'm not an expert in that, but this, just like we did with school boards, the county school boards, most of the time, we've allowed the local parties to call for those races to be partisan. Some have chosen to do that. Others have chosen not to.
The last one.
Before we go on, committee, I'm going to take privilege here. I was just informed that this bill has been rolled to 2024 in the Senate. So just wanted the committee to be aware of that. Chairman Todd, it's your call.
Thank you, sir. The sponsor that we had in the Senate was on the caption bill. And so once this amendment was put on, they didn't feel comfortable running it. And I have a second sponsor that just didn't have time. Said, I've run out of time this year with the committee schedule and my schedule. And so they said, you go ahead and run it in the House, and then we'll take it up next year. So it's not a negative, but I think it's just one of those timing issues.
Okay, Representative McKenzie, you're, okay. Any other questions for the sponsor? I have Representative Thompson on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do the voters in a municipality have any choice in this? Can they say we don't want to have either party involved in our elections to keep them nonpartisan?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, sir. At this point in time, I think we have some municipalities whose charter allows them to have partisan races. We did in school boards, I know, but this just makes it statewide and permissive that the local party could decide if they want a local municipal race to be partisan or not, just like we do again on school boards and like many, I guess all counties do on their elections on the county level.
Representative Thompson for a follow-up.
Yeah, I don't think you're answering my question exactly. Suppose suppose this bill is passed, but any municipality in the state says we don't want to have parties involved. We want to keep our elections nonpartisan. Do they have that choice?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand your question now. Sorry, I just was not sure of the exact point. The municipality, if we pass this, would not have that choice. It is going to be up to the voters. It's going to be up to the parties, whether it would be partisan or not. And any member of the community that would qualify would still be able to run independent, as they do now in nonpartisan elections. So this just allows a local party to say, we're going to put forth a candidate that represents our views, and this community recognizes what those views are, and we feel like that's the right thing to do.
Representative Thompson.
So essentially, you're by this bill, you're forcing each municipality in the state to do one thing and one thing only. You're taking away the choice of the voters of each municipality. So I cannot support a bill like that.
Thank you. Any other questions for the sponsor? Chairman Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the voters right now do not have a choice, and this is offering them a choice through the local parties if they want to put up a candidate for a representation of that party. Right now, they're not allowed to in most cases. And so this is just to solve that, as we did with school boards. And again, I think as I've gotten feedback from many on this committee, and then certainly from my community and other communities around the state, that was a very positive move to allow them to do something they couldn't do in the past, even though a few across the state were based on their charter.
Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing the bill. As I understand, all other elections in the state now, candidates and parties have a right to declare partisan. The only city elections can't. So this would bring this in line with all other election laws and make it balanced. So I thank you for bringing that.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleague, what if we pass this out and it didn't pass in the Senate? What would happen?
Chairman Todd.
it'll just be on hold until next year. We're waiting for Senate action. Since this is a 2-year assembly, we've obviously got another year for a number of bills that are passed here to be passed in the Senate next year or vice versa.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then I'm gonna just make a motion that we just lay it on the table, on the desk until next year, since it didn't pass in the Senate, and let it, okay.
We have a proper second. Is there any objection? We do have objection. We'll go ahead and give me just a second. All right, committee, we're going to take a vote on rolling this. Since the motion was made and seconded, we're going to take a vote on those that want to lay this on the table. All right? Does everybody understand? This vote is to lay it on the table. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it. We're back on the bill. You're recognized, Chairman Todd. Question has been called on the bill. That's non-debatable. We're ready to vote on House Bill 0505. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee.
Item number 8, looks like House Bill 1254 by our own Chairman Kiesling. And I do see we have an amendment, sir. Is there a motion on the bill? Proper motion and second on the bill? The amendment code, sir?
Yes, sir. 6135, sir.
That is correct. Proper motion and second on the amendment. Is this make the bill, sir?
It does. Thank you for
Without
asking.
objection, we'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill. All in favor of amendment number 6135 going on the bill, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. You are now recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1254, members. Nothing more than an elections improvement cleanup, and we think it's well needed. Those of you who may be following along with the amended version of this, focus in on section number 1, the first section. We've got two items there that I'd like to point out. It does amend TCA 2-7-112. The first item, it removes the directive now that allows the voter's social security number to be part of the voter's information. 2, it simply makes it permissive that the voter is able to sign the printed application that is printed from the electronic poll book as an alternative to the signing of the electronic poll book screen when the option is not available. Moving on to section number 2. Section number 2 is amended. It simply deletes TCA 2-5-208. It removes the requirement placed on state primary boards to prescribe a color for its party ballots across the state, with the requirement for voter verifiable paper audit trail to be in place prior to the 2024 elections, removing this possibility of 3 colors of ballots and only having white, we feel is a needed change. There are 7 points, and I'll quickly go down through there that just highlight that. The party is already identified at the top of the ballot anyway. 2, there's a ballot cost savings associated with using, of course, only white ballot stock. 3, it simplifies the process at the polls where the paper ballot marking devices and paper ballot on demand technology is utilized. 4, there's time, labor, and equipment cost savings. 5, we feel like it's going to increase voter participation. 6, opportunity mistakenly printing on the wrong color ballot is removed. And finally, election officials across the state are in favor of this. Mr. Chairman, as you know, there is a request for testimony if members receive it. I hope you have that request.
I do. Without objection, we'll go out of session and hear from Speaker Tim Sweat. Mr. Sweat, please turn your mic on. Give us your name, who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, just briefly to touch on those points. The first item is removing that social security number at.
Can you
is it-
please give us your name
Oh,
and
I'm
who you're
sorry.
with?
Tim Sweat, Administrator Elections
Thank
in
you.
Morgan County. Thank you. First item is removing that social security number from information that goes out to the polling place on election day. We want to keep that information off those records. It's more of a security issue than anything, just a voter or personal identification security measure. Second item is the current code allows that the voter sign the screen on the electronic poll book, the poll pad. Not all those electronic poll books have the opportunity to sign on screen, so we're adding a sentence in there that would allow them to sign the printed application with a pen. That is a better signature when they do that on paper with a pen. Also, it reduces the communicable disease or transfer of germs or whatever between voters and election workers and like that. So as we move forward to 2024 elections and across the state where we're going with paper ballots or paper verified audit trails, this will enhance that. Last measure is removing the colors from the ballots, from the partisan ballots and the general election. And that's going to help at the polling place where you have ballot marking devices and or ballot on demand technology, so that the ballot clerk under current law would have to open that printer drawer, stick in a whatever color would represent the request of that voter, close it, printer warm up, and then print. So it's going to slow down the operation. So removing that color demand will help the throughput of the voters at the polling place.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions for our speaker? Seeing none, thank you for being with us
Thank you.
today. Appreciate your time. Spending it away from your county, so we're glad to have you. Without objection, we'll go back into session. We're back on House Bill 1254. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1254. All those in favor of it moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, please say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Your bill moves on. Thank you, Chairman Keegan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Item number 9, HJR 0139 by Representative Sparks. We got a proper motion and second. Representative Sparks, you're recognized on your HJR.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Committee, I bring you this due to the high cost of what we're seeing with housing and the housing market. Davidson County median price is $420,000. Rutherford County is $395,000. Murray County is $399,870. Williamson County, $850,000. Members, I want to share a quick story if I could. I was at my Rotary Club recently, and I was asked to do the prayer. And former Representative Robert Stevens was one of our former presidents, done a great job. And a young lady was sitting there beside me. She was only 22. She was with the Better Business Bureau. And I said, you have anything you want me to pray for? And she said, pray that my husband and I can find a home. And I thought, well, that's a rare request. I've never had anybody say that. Bought my first home at 22, and we've got a crisis on our hands. And what this ask is just simply to study the cost of higher taxes and impact fees. Dr. Chris Lippert is here that can answer any questions. I am open to widening the scope of this TASER study, whether it's other areas that impact the high cost of housing. So hopefully with y'all's passage of this, y'all can give me more input on what they study and other concerns that y'all may have that we could add to this.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Sparks, if we pass this House Joint Resolution out and TASER does the study, how will that help you or help us in our future decisions for housing here in Tennessee?
Representative Sparks.
Well, great question. I met with the speaker earlier, along with Dr. Lipper that attended, and I had asked the speaker his advice on what else we could do to tackle affordable housing. He's open. He said he's open to any other discussion. I'm open to that. I did something similar about 4 or 5 years ago, members may remember, and I had National Home Builders Association come and testify about the housing issue, and it wasn't as high as it is today. And according to their studies, $85,000 price for a new home is nothing but government taxes and fees and inspection fees and impact fees. I just think that's something we need to address. But like I say, we're open to other ideas, Representative Reedy, that can help us with for the generation that can afford this, like these young clerks that are sitting here and these other young people that are at the back of the audience.
Representative Reedy for follow-up. Any other questions for the sponsor? Question has been called. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 1, 3, and 9, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to
Thank
Finance.
you, Chairman.
Ways
Thank you,
and
Committee.
Means. All right, item number 10, House Bill 0389 by Representative Alexander. Got a proper motion and second. I do see that we have a amendment on this. It is an untimely filed amendment, but can you give us your drafting code? Make sure your mic's on.
Thank you. My drafting code is 06776.
That is the drafting code that the committee has. So we will, at this time, I will take a vote on taking up the untimely filed amendment. All those in favor of taking up the untimely filed amendment 6776, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We'll go ahead and take that up. I need a motion and second on the amendment. Proper motion and second on the amendment. Does the amendment make the bill, ma'am?
It does, sir.
All right. Without objection, we'll go ahead and place the amendment on the bill. All those in favor of Amendment 6776, moving on the bill, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are now back on the bill. Representative Alexander, I do see that you have a speaker with you. Jill Holland, is she here?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Without objection, we will go out of session to hear from the speaker. We're out of session. Mrs. Holland, please come to the table, turn your mic on, give us your name, who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Jill Holland. I am a property owner of a farm. I live in McKenzie, Tennessee, on a 220-acre family farm established in 1829. It is the oldest century farm in Carroll County, and it has a rich heritage of generations of farmers who grew food for family and livestock for almost 200 years. Realizing this land could someday be developed for massive profits, as a family, we made the decision to take steps to preserve the farm for future generations. And I'm proud to say that in 2002, the Holland Farm became the first farm in West Tennessee to establish a permanent conservation easement with the Land Trust for Tennessee, an organization established to save family farms and precious land. However, the city of McKenzie saw the Holland Farm with dollar signs in their eyes. It began a land grab with the excuse that they needed the city to be squared up on the maps, and annexing us would square them up. Although there were 2 subdivisions which would add over 1,000 people to the city, the outcry from the subdivision residents was so great that it discouraged the city officials from moving forward to annex them. And so, in 2003, they annexed a farm with 3 houses and 6 people. Although we met and talked with city officials regarding the conservation easement, they still believed we would eventually develop, bringing additional tax revenue into McKenzie. It has now been 20 years this month since our farm was annexed. We pay county, special school district, and city taxes. Although we are green belted, the fact that city taxes are paid outweighs the savings from Greenbelt. Although we had a plan of services, 20 years later, the city of McKenzie can still not afford the millions of dollars to provide street lights, lift stations, pumps, fire hydrants requiring 6-inch water lines to protect our homes and barns full of hay. To our knowledge, the Holland Farm is the only farm in Carroll County that has an
Ms.
entire
Holland, if you
farm.
can go ahead and give us your 3 minutes.
Okay, in the city, we're literally paying city taxes without the services promised in order to help feed and clothe America. This is not a fair trade for farms in our country in order to pad the city's coffers. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the speaker? Chairman Carr.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford. And ma'am, I mean no disrespect at all. I come from a city background as an alderman. You were mayor of McKenzie, is that correct?
That's correct.
How many years you mayor of McKenzie?
12 years.
At that point in time, if you're bringing this to me, and this is what I brought up earlier, this legislation was brought for one person. Now we're seeing it going across the state. If you were mayor of McKenzie, why did you not petition at that time to be de-annexed?
Ms. McKenzie,
Well,
you're recognized.
Okay, there are two reasons for that. One, probably we could have gone ahead and petitioned for the services, but that would have broken our town to provide those services. So that wasn't a good choice. The citizens of McKenzie elected me to be their mayor. And I love McKenzie. I saw a lot of good things that could happen. And for us to be de-annexed, then I wouldn't be mayor anymore. And so I felt I would be doing a disservice to the citizens of McKenzie as a result of that.
Chairman Carr.
Thank you. I see that point, but you just made another point too. You said you couldn't do it because you couldn't afford it. And they've not done that now. Is that what
The
you're saying?
city has still not done that.
Okay, but
It
you
was-
did not ask when you were mayor to be de-annexed.
No, I did not.
So, and I apologize. I'm not trying to be mean on this.
No,
So you
it's
put
fine. That's a good
so
question.
you wanted to stay as, even though you're here now asking us to do this as a state,
Mhm.
you wanted to keep your mayor position and not de-annex your farm.
Ms.
The
McKenzie, you're
mayor-
recognized.
The mayor position for the city of McKenzie paid about $600 a month. Yet I worked probably 60 hours a week
I know you
because I
do.
love the city. I felt like that the good I could do for the city during the time I was mayor far outweighed the good for the city if we were de-annexed.
Chairman Carr.
Thank you. Now then, how long have you not been mayor?
Since
Ms. Holland.
November.
November.
Mhm.
Have you petitioned your city since then to be de-annexed?
No, I have not.
So you're asking us as a state to do it?
Yes.
If it's been passed. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the speaker? Thank you for being with us today, Ms. Holland. You're excused.
Thank
Without objection, we'll go back into session. Chairman Carr, you're recognized to the sponsor.
Thank you. Madam Sponsor, I believe we had this conversation before. When you brought this to me, you said this is for one person, even though we knew it's statewide.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry.
I told you that the person that brought it to me was a farmer up in my area, but that this would apply statewide and that there would be other farms across the state. And I was working with Farm Bureau to ask them, are there other farmers that are in the same situation? But whether it's one farm or whether it's 10 farms, if it helps one farmer get the benefit of not being taxed by a city that cannot supply services to them, then we've done our farmers some good.
Chairman Carr,
Could we have not have changed it to that just one city?
Representative Alexander.
Would that solve the problem for the rest of the state? No, it would not.
You're
Chairman Carr.
You're exactly right on that. But this is why I hate to open up this particular section. I do not know if her farm is squared off like your farm is. I don't know what it will take out of the city of McKenzie. I have no way of knowing. That is my objection to even doing this de-annexation. I'm not fussing at you. I'm just saying that that's from my city point and my time in the city, I cannot see us de-annexing these properties because we don't know where or when it's going to end in this particular realm.
Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Chairman. It will end because we have put enough guardrails in this bill to keep people from doing it unless they really qualified to do it. We've talked about it being contiguous. We put that in the amendment. We've talked about they have to be a member of the Green Belt. They have to be an actual farmer. That we have put in every single negative that has been addressed to me about this bill. Here's the reality. We give municipalities everything they ask for. And this is an opportunity to take care of our farmers.
Anybody have any more questions? Chairman Carr, you're recognized.
I want to go back to the statement you said we give municipalities everything they've asked for. Right now, we don't get, as a municipality, we don't get all our fair share taxes, and we're trying to get that now from the state. But I'd go back to this question. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to make my point for the cities. Where's the development come from?
Representative Alexander.
I'm assuming from the cities and the counties who decide to develop property, sir.
Chairman Carr.
Yes, ma'am, you're right. It comes from the cities mostly. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just always been opposed to this de-annexation. Being a city person, I still think it's wrong. I still think we need to sit down on this. Would you consider rolling this a week that we can talk about that?
Representative Alexander.
I'm at the will of the committee, sir. But I will say this, where does our food come from? We worry so about development, but where does our food come from?
Chairman
Comes
Carr.
from these farmers.
She's asking me.
I would assume so. This is becoming running debate. It's not going to go on very much longer.
Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll answer this question and I will yield. We do trust our farmers to bring us our food. And with that, I can say that we do trust our farmers to bring our food. We do have to have our cities to continue to make the development for this so the process can go on. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Give me just a second here, guys. Just wanted to clarify that there was not a proper motion made there. Representative Thompson.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, I have some of the same concerns that Chairman Carr has. You know, we've dealt with, my area, of course, as I mentioned in subcommittee, has dealt with annexation, de-annexation laws. There were several laws that fortunately went down in our city, ended up de-annexing with cooperation between the county and the city. Now, but this law is just sort of a one-size-fits-all that's going to cover all 95 counties. Is that correct?
Representative Alexander.
That is correct.
Okay.
Chairman Thompson for follow-up.
Thank you. There's so much variation, even in our agricultural areas between our counties from one end of the 500 miles from one end to the other. And I could see this as just for one county. I think this is for Unicoi County, if I'm right. But just have one size fits all, and we don't know how it's going to affect all the various municipalities. Is it going to take away a big part of its tax base or not? I think we need to take these on an individual basis and be careful how we do it for the advantage of the family farms as well as the municipality it sits next to. Thank you.
Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
We addressed every concern that you had, sir, in the last committee and amended it, and that's what this new amendment does.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I apologize, I didn't get to talk to you beforehand, but in section 1C, 1B, little section 2, where it talks about being an heir, you can be somebody that owned the property or be the heir of someone that owned the property. So this is maybe a legal nuance, but an heir is somebody that inherits when there's not a will. It's somebody that inherits through a will is a devizee. And so if you just say heir only, somebody that inherited the property through a will would not be covered in this. And I'm not sure if that's a matter that is important to you or not, but I don't want a city to be able to come back and say, well, you acquired your property through a will, you're not technically an heir. And so I guess if it goes on to Finance Ways and Means, maybe
we need to amend that.
Make a slight little tweak to that so it covers those people too.
Okay.
Representative Alexander, do you have response?
Thank you. No.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're ready to vote on House Bill 938. All those in favor of it moving on to Finance Ways and Means, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Okay. Item number 11, Senate Joint Resolution 31 has been rolled 1 week without objection, rolled 1 week. Item 12, House Bill 1563 by Chairman Sapicki. Proper motion and second. I have received a vote of 2/3 majority resolution. It's in the office if anybody would like to see it. Representative Sapicki, let me apologize. I did not realize you were on the calendar. You're chairman. I would have got you out of here sooner. I apologize. You're recognized now on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. This comes from my county commission. It's 3 things, very simple. Our sheriff has requested that the private act should be amended to remove the hiring component from the Civil Service Board, but still allow the Civil Service Board to retain the grievance component. The board shall meet semi-annually. And lastly, the Civil Service Board shall elect a board member as chairman. The county mayor or other person designated by the county mayor shall serve as secretary. to the Civil Service Board without additional compensation, and the secretary will be the keeper of the Civil Service Board records. That's what my county commission has requested, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsors. Are there any questions? Yeah, I announced that earlier. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1563. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee.
All right, gentlemen, ladies, we are on item 13, House Bill 1560. We have a proper motion and second. I can't remember, Chairman Moon, is this Dave Wright's bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've withdrawn from the bill, and Chairman Wright is the sponsor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, without objection, Chairman Wright will present from his seat. We do have a proper motion in second. Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is item number 13, House Bill 1560. On behalf of my good friends on the Blount County Commission, the seeking action on the Private Act of 1945 have requested by 2/3 majority, which is on file with the chairman in his office, seeking an amendment to that private act. And I request that we hear testimony as previously scheduled, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we'll go out of session and hear from our speakers. Out of session. First member I have is Douglas Overby. Do you see him there? Harold Naramore and Denny Mays. All right. Thank y'all for being with us today. When it's your time to speak, please turn your mic on, give us your name and who you're with, and each one of you will have 3 minutes. Who wants to start first? Mr.
Dr.
Overby?
Naramore, please.
Okay, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Hal Naramore. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Blount Memorial Hospital, and I've held that position since June of 22. Prior to that, I've been the Chief Medical Officer of our hospital for the past 13 years. Since I've been the CEO, I've addressed many of the issues facing all hospitals in Tennessee. We're dealing with emotional and financial fallout from COVID, which both have been very significant. We need to continue to improve our operational margin in an environment where 60% of the hospitals in the country are losing money. 45% of the hospitals in the state of Tennessee currently have an unsustainable financial picture, and about 1 rural hospital a year is closed in Tennessee on average since 2020. I point this out to show the environment we're in. We also needed to obtain cash to stabilize our debt and to secure resources for needed capital improvements. Because of these needs, we instituted immediately a strategic plan focused on 3 main areas. One is the quality medical care, which is always paramount in our hospital, but also behind that was financial and operational improvement and the need to acquire cash in order to stabilize our debt. As we worked our plan, we have made significant operational improvement, which I believe discussed by one of the other speakers. But I primarily want to talk about our plan to address our cash need. Through our strategic planner and consultation with our lender, we determined that pursuing a real estate investment trust would be the quickest and most timely way to pursue cash in order to meet our debt obligations. So we pursued that, and we identified a building and had a contract to sell that building for $22.25 million. However, at that point in time, there was a lot of objection raised at our county, and that did not occur. So we continued to work toward raising much needed cash and capital. There have been a number of attempts that I've made personally to reach out to our county mayor to discuss this with him, beginning actually when I became the CEO in June, then in writing in both November and February. To this point, I've had no interaction with our county mayor to discuss these issues. Now, given the magnitude, complexity, and uncertainty of what's contained in this private act change, I'm not asking the committee to weigh in on which side of this private act we should be on. I think this is a local matter. I do ask the following. I ask that you vote no, or if you're unsure, you abstain. And I ask for the following reasons. The hospital and local governments have worked effectively under this private act for 75 years. Through every other disagreement or challenge we've had, we've come together to resolve the issues at a local level, and the negotiations benefited the county, the hospital, and medical care in our community.
Mr. Nairmore, if you could give us your closing, you're over 3 minutes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'll do that very quickly. I would ask that you allow time to negotiate a settlement to this bill and settlement to this dispute, and the alternative that you allow the litigation, which is currently filed, to work its way through. I ask you, I think it's bad policy for the legislature to choose sides in this local matter. And with that, I'll conclude. Thank you for your attention and time.
Thank you. Mr. Overby.
Thank you. Thank you. If the board chairman, Denny Mays, could go next, please.
That'll be fine. Mr. Mays, please give us your name, who you're with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, and good afternoon. My name is Denny Mays, and I have been a Blount Memorial Hospital board member for the past 13 years. And I was elected to serve as board president in December of 2022. Our board's focus is to serve our community by ensuring Blount Memorial is a high quality and viable hospital. I think it's important for you to know that Blount Memorial Hospital Incorporated is more than just a hospital. It is among many other things. And for example, the hospital has multiple clinics, and we, including an employed provider group with more than 200 physicians, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners. We own and operate a skilled nursing facility, an assisted living center, a home health service, physical therapy service, and 2 wellness centers. I point this out to help the committee understand that we are not only critical to healthcare in our community, but also our community's economical health. We are the second largest employer in Blount County with more than 2,500 employees, and we generate roughly 1 out of every $5 for our local economy. In June of 2022, the hospital changed CEOs, and our board unanimously appointed Dr. Nairmore as its new CEO. Dr. Nairmore inherited a number of significant challenges, including a significant operating loss from the previous year, very high labor costs, primarily from contract nursing needs, and the need to increase our cash reserves. And he has worked tirelessly, him and his team, to address each of these issues, and we are making progress. In fact, operationally, we have improved $10.5 million year over year to this point. So under his leadership, we have been able to virtually eliminate the need for contract nursing, which is opposite of how most of the market is moving. And as he stated, he also attempted to execute a real estate investment trust with one of our buildings for $22.25 million. And if the sale had been allowed to close, it would have improved our cash and our debt challenges tremendously. Instead, the sale faced unexpected and significant political resistance, which led the buyer to withdraw the purchase of the property. But Dr. Nairmore is currently working on other projects to address the cash issue.
Mr. Overby, if you can please give us your closing.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman. We believe that given the magnitude and impact these changes would have on Blount County and the relationship between the hospital and the county, you will agree that it is not appropriate at this time for the legislatures to take sides in this local issue. We think it should be us working together as Blount County, the hospital, and our other local local governments through negotiation. And I would ask that you vote no, or if you're unsure, I ask you to abstain or delay your decision until next session. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Overby, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford and members of the committee. I'm Doug Overby, practicing law in Knoxville, Tennessee with Owens, Wilson, and Coleman, and I serve as legal counsel to Blunt Memorial Hospital. Never did I think I would be here in front of this committee opposing a private act requested by the county commission. I served on a forerunner of this committee, the State and Local Government Committee, back when Representative Miller was the chairman. I never thought I would appear here giving testimony, especially on a private act. But I think as you review this bill, this is not your typical private act. It's not a private act like you heard earlier from Chairman Marsh or from Representative Cochran. Those private acts simply dealt with some internal mechanism of city government or county government. This is a different kettle of fish. You're being requested to look at a private act to change intimately the relationship that has gone on for more than 75 years between Blount County and the Blount Memorial Hospital Incorporated, a relationship that has been successful by anybody's standards. When over the past 13 years, you've had on the average of one rural hospital closing each year, Blount Memorial Hospital is still standing, is still there, and still delivering quality patient care. So this is not your typical private act. And by that, I mean, please do not just defer judgment to the Blount County Commission, which I also served on for 8 years in the 80s. But this is a whole different type of private act that you should not suspend your independent judgment. This has been brought here before you, unfortunately, in my opinion, laid in your laps when it ought to remain with our local government and for the local hospital to deal with. Please don't reserve or suspend your local judgment as to whether this reflects good public policy. What the county commission, in effect, is asking you to do is to put your thumb on the scales of justice. Unfortunately, we had to file litigation, institute litigation right before Christmas against Blount County. Blount County's now reciprocated and filed their own counterclaim against the hospital. Traditionally, the legislature has refrained from involving itself in matters that are within litigation. The county commission is sending this to you as really to pretermit the litigation, as its stopgap on the litigation. It's asking you to put your thumb on the scales of justice and alter what really should be played out in private negotiations or resolved by Chancellor Jim Ripley, who is our chancellor. Finally, I don't think it has been pointed out to you that an attorney general's opinion has been requested on this. Senator Swan is the Senate sponsor. I talked to Senator Swan about getting an attorney general's opinion.
Mr. Overby, please give us your closing. You're over your 3 minutes.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That attorney general's opinion was requested by Senator Sutherland. I checked with his office at 11:30 today. No response has been given. We believe there are serious constitutional questions as well as possible other violations of law should this go into effect. Mr. Chairman, if I can make just one quick point. There are 9 members, 9 appointees to the Blount Memorial Hospital Board, 4 by Blount County, 2 by the city of Maryville, 2 by the city of Alcoa, 1 by Maryville College. That is 5 appointments by Maryville College, Maryville, and Alcoa. This private act wasn't sent to you by Maryville College, Maryville, city of Alcoa, only by Blount County because they want you inappropriately to put your thumb on the scales of justice. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for our speakers? Chairman Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so sorting this out, I've got a little experience in the hospital situation because I reside in Houston County, and of course, it's been a big contention there. Finally, we have a buyer of that. But understanding it is the county owns the hospital, but it's run by a nonprofit. Is Am I getting the facts right? It's any of you, please.
Representative Reading, you're getting to the heart of what's at the litigation.
Okay.
That has always, in sort of a theoretical sense, been something in intention. I mean, it was created by a private act more than 75 years ago that said Blount County could create a community hospital and allow a not-for-profit to manage it. Simultaneously with that, Blount Memorial Hospital Incorporated was incorporated, and since that time has managed the hospital. If we start looking at deeds, there are deeds that control the central core, that what you and I would consider a hospital. But there are, over 75 years, other property has been acquired simply in the name of Blount Memorial Hospital Incorporated that we would say the county doesn't own. And part of this private act, which frankly causes me serious problems from a constitutional sense, at the end of section 1 and letter E, it says, upon written notice to such manager and upon any such termination, the manager shall convey and transfer all assets of the hospital that are held by the manager to the county. I don't know where you find that in law in the United States of America, where a county can say, we're going to take private property held by a corporate name by our second largest employer in the county, and make you transfer it to the county.
Chairman Reedy?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what you're just telling me is the initial purchase was made by the county, but additional properties since that time have been added to an accumulation of additional properties?
Again, Representative Reed, it's not that crystal clear. Some initial property was donated by Maryville College.
Oh, gotcha. Last question, Mr.
Chairman
Chairman.
Reedy?
Yeah.
So tell us all again, you've got a board. Where are the board members from? And how many of elected officials are on that board, please?
So, Mr. Chairman, there are no elected officials on the board, but they are appointed, 4 of those are appointed by Blount County. 2 of them are appointed by the city of Alcoa. 2 of them are appointed by the city of Maryville, and Maryville College, because it gave property to the original hospital, has a board seat they appoint.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman.
Final.
Final question. The situation Houston County was in, of course, the board that were made up of members from the Houston County Commission. I understand it was those folks were able to appoint. It just kind of blows my mind that a county commissioner would not be sitting on that board themselves. And I guess that's where I'm trying to figure out, because we've already heard today on how many that can be appointed to that. I sit on 2 different boards myself as a state representative, and I appreciate the opportunity to be there and be part of that discussion. It concerns me that we have not an elected official on that board as well. And maybe it was by design, if you care to comment.
I would care to comment. Thank you for your question. We have a nominating committee which was formed 40 years ago. And I will defer to Mr. Overby because he chaired the he was the county commissioner that chaired the committee that formed.
Gentlemen, hello. I'm sorry, but we have a hard stop at 1 o'clock. So without objection, we'll be adjourned. Okay. Hang on just a second. We're out of session. We'll go back into session. Okay. That's okay with you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to personally thank for time, travel, and testimony, Mr. Mays, Mr. Nairmore, Mr. Overby, and request that this bill be rolled 1 week.
Without objection, it'll be rolled to the next week's calendar. All our bills that are left will be rolled to next week's calendar. We're adjourned. Yep.